Good morning. I'm meteorologist Mike Seidel. We're covering the aftermath of Tropical Storm Eta here in St. Pete Beach, here in the Tampa Bay area, and you can see on the street what was left behind, and we're seeing this all over. We came down from Clearwater Beach through Madeira, and all the streets have debris in them because of the freshwater flooding and also the Gulf and Bay and that storm surge. We saw some places where they were using the bobcats to get the sand out of the parking lots and the streets. Let's talk to the owner of the house because he's been here since 2004. This is Steve Gordon. Steve, thanks for joining us this morning.
Hi there.
Hey, and tell us how fast the water came up. Just give us a play-by-play.
We got hammered all day, and the winds were really high, and we were getting hit with squall lines. But as the high tide started coming in about 6 o'clock, the water started going up. It went over the seawall at about 7. The waves were breaking in my backyard, and between 7:30 and 9:30, the water came up about 3 feet. And so right here where I'm standing was about 3 feet deep. The road was 5 feet deep.
Wow.
And when they say storm surge, they really mean it. This water doesn't just come in, it rushes in, and it really caught me off guard. I had no idea. I've been here 16 years. We've been through hurricanes. I was running around trying to get everything off the floor. The water was a 1/4 inch going in my house.
So it went into your garage there.
The water was 6 inches deep in my garage. I went out to check on the weather. I opened up my garage door, and all this water, a wave came in my garage. I was going, oh my God, what is this? I went out my front door. This entire road was underwater, and it was just crazy.
And that's water from the Gulf of Mexico, or the Bay.
What happens is, for our area, Pinellas County, is if we get a storm out to the west, let's say within 50 miles, the winds on the east side of that storm hammer us with squall lines, plus the wind blows all the water into the bay.
Got it.
So the bay floods. Bogosiega Bay is a smaller bay from Tampa Bay. It all fills up with water, and then when it combines that with a high tide, everything goes underwater, and it's a real problem. And this is just exacerbated because of climate change. I know people don't believe it, but I've been living here for 16 years, and I built my dock. The water in the bay is up 5 to 6 inches since I've been here because I put those boards in. Originally, they were dry. Now they're wet 75% of the time. So we're just lucky this didn't happen in August or September when the water in the Gulf is warmer. We would have gotten even an extra 3 feet of water. But because the water was cooler, it didn't get us as bad as it could have. But any storm that comes by Pinellas County and Manatee County out in the Gulf to the west of us within 50 miles is going to cause major damage, and I just am so grateful. A lot of my neighbors got 2 feet of water in their house. All I did was get my garage flooded and get scared, but it was like, I'm just so grateful, and I feel bad for all the people that got flooded out.
We appreciate your story, and we're happy that you're okay, and everybody's okay. It's just
property damage.
Property damage that can be replaced.
It reminds you that the best meteorologists can do is take their best guess and it's really normally close. They didn't anticipate a 3-hour stall in the Gulf yesterday. So that's what built up this water. If it would have kept moving at the rate that it was going, we would have been minor damage. But because it had a 3-hour stall between 3 and 7 o'clock, or whenever that was, it just filled the bay full of water and made things really bad. But I'm just grateful that it could have been much worse.
Thanks for sharing your story with the Weather Channel. Steve Gordon here at St. Pete Beach. Wow, 16 years, Dr. Postel. Never seen the water this high here in the Tampa Bay area. And we've seen other neighborhoods, too, that went through the same issue. We've been driving around. The water, for the most part, has receded across the whole area, but it's the leftover mud and debris. And as Steve mentioned, some of the water actually got into the homes in this neighborhood.
Yeah, and the good news is, Mike, is that we're dealing with Eta, which is weakening rapidly, and most of the heavy rain now has moved out over the Atlantic.
So let's talk a little bit more about Eta's surge and the coastal impacts on Florida's west coast. Our meteorologist Mike Seidel joins us live in St. Pete Beach for a closer look at what the storm did there. Mike, how's it looking?
It's looking better this morning. The water has receded. It was surge here in St. Pete Beach. We've got Tim and Deb McLean. They're cleaning up after that water came in, and the timing couldn't have been any worse because it came in at high tide last night.
Yeah, it did. And then, you know, with the surge, and then the wind was coming right at us in the back over the seawall. It was pretty insane.
How long have you guys lived here, Tim?
Almost 7 years.
Have you ever seen the water this high?
No, this is the worst, and really the prior storms, smaller storms, seem to create bigger issues because it sits, you know, and I think that was the big thing today is, well, last night, it just sat there and just kept coming, and as the timing, it always seems to be at night and at high tide.
Yeah.
So all things considered, not bad, but this was definitely the worst we've experienced.
So you have a little cleanup this morning, but your house is fine?
Yeah, we just got some in there. We got about 2 feet in the garage.
Well, you were worried about the garage because of that classic car.
Yeah, so that's kind of our baby, and that was a big concern. It probably got up about, well, maybe a foot on the rear tires and stuff like that. So yeah, I'll take it out once we're all dried up and spray everything down, get the salt out of it. So piecemeal, taking every little bit here.
Did you guys lose power over here at St. Pete Beach?
For like
real
10
quick.
minutes or something like
nothing,
that, middle of the
nothing
night.
To speak of.
Yeah,
Nothing
no,
to
we were
speak
really
of.
lucky.
Well, yeah, you are. Your house is fine. You're fine, and
Yep.
your neighbors are in pretty good shape too.
We're very grateful.
Yeah,
And this is what we're really seeing around the area is just this cleaning up this
the
debris.
water was up to the top of that step. My husband's already cleaned it, so it was getting
Very
It
close.
was getting very close.
Very-
Part of it is, I don't know if you talked to the
I talked to Steve down the
St.
street.
Pete. I mean, part of this work is to eliminate the biggest problem. So if you get water coming from the bay and then it's backing up in the street, I mean, talking about nowhere to go.
Right.
And what's happened,
They're putting in some kind of drainage around the corner.
Yeah,
I
to
see.
at least keep it from coming in before it gets over the seawall. So, you know, the drain's below, well, the water's coming in well before it really needs to. And it's been something they've been trying to fix for 10 or 15 years. I mean, the guy over here has been fighting this battle for a long time. They just haven't got to the point yet where it would have helped on this particular storm. I think once they do that,
It'll help.
it should alleviate, you know, it coming as close into people's houses as it has this particular time.
So it was all surge. It had nothing really to do with a half a foot of rain.
I don't think the rain was
Yeah.
the big factor. I think it was the surge. I think it was more the surge, and it couldn't go anywhere.
That's what I'm hearing. I think that makes sense because you're surrounded by water down here.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah.
I mean, I've lived in Florida my whole life, and I haven't experienced anything like I did last night. It was pretty scary.
Well, I'm so happy the water didn't get into the house.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so
Oh
are
my
we.
And that your classic Camaro is fine.
Yes. So the big things that are important,
And
we're all good.
You're good. That's right. Okay, Tim and Deb McLean, thanks for joining us here on the Weather Channel. And back in Atlanta, they're continuing to monitor the rains from Eta. Felicia, we've had water rescues and flash flooding up in the Carolinas. Give us the latest and follow up on what's in store for the rest of today up the coast.
Yeah, just a really messy morning, Mike.
Good morning. Welcome back to our continuing coverage of Tropical Storm Eta. We'll get back to the impacts in the Carolinas, the water rescues, the flash flooding. But first, we want to show you a little bit about what's happened here at St. Pete Beach. Eta came by here last night at, excuse me, at high tide, and we have a surge that took over this whole neighborhood. And we've got Cindy Schuster, who lives nearby, but is the realtor of the house for the couple who lives here. It's an older couple, and the gentleman is in a wheelchair, and I understand it was very frustrating for them.
Yes, it was. About 8 o'clock last night, they had water pouring in their house. There wasn't much they could really do about it. Their entire living room is flooded. The hardwood floors are flooded. Their washer and dryer that is on pedestals was full of water. Now the water's gone, but you know that it's seeping through the baseboards and up into the drywall.
So there's definitely going to be some remediation.
Oh, yes, definitely. They've called the insurance company, but they're saying it'll be 24 to 72 hours before they can come out.
And you've lived here 26 years. How did you make out where you live? And give us an idea of what history tells us about this little intersection, this little neighborhood.
This is Boca Ciega Isle. I live in the subdivision next door in Bella Vista. Boca Ciega Isle has flooded every time there's a major storm. In '96, they had 4 feet of water inside their house. And again, now with just a tropical storm, again, they've had at least 2 feet. I sold the house next door to Perry and Nick. They moved here from New York, and they had never been through anything like this before. As you know, they have road construction going on here. It's been months. The city came out to put a pump out. At 7 o'clock this morning, there was still like 3 feet of water in the streets.
And I understand the construction is tied into a drainage project to kind of keep the water at least a little bit lower in the future.
Exactly. The whole point of this construction is so the neighborhood does not flood.
Well, let's get that construction project done.
I agree.
Hopefully by next season.
Yes.
I mean, who thought we would be doing tropical weather in November?
It's just about Thanksgiving, and we're still dealing with the hurricane. It's, you know.
Let's hope this is it for the season.
The one thing, you know, with the rain will dry out. At least we don't have the fires like in California, because the fire destroys the rain, gets everything wet, but it can be fixed.
Good point. Good point. Cindy Schuster, thanks for your positive attitude this morning here.
You're welcome. Thanks for being out here.
We appreciate it. St. Pete Beach, Dr. Postel. So, you know, everybody's okay, but when you've got an elderly couple in a house and the gentleman's in a wheelchair and the water is pouring in the front door, just imagine what that's like to live through. And I was told by Cynthia earlier that he felt like he was helpless. He just couldn't help his wife because of his lack of mobility.
Yeah, Mike, I mean, the storm surge and the flooding that accompanies it, extremely dangerous hazards when you were dealing with landfalling tropical cyclones. And that's why we always say, heed the advice of the officials. If you're in a storm surge warning area or you're asked to evacuate, please do so.
A little bit more about Eta's surge and the coastal impacts on Florida's west coast. We have our own meteorologist, Mike Seidel, there. He's joining us live from St. Pete Beach. Mike, you've been talking to residents there pretty much all morning. The storm surge really did a number on some of these neighborhoods.
Yes, we're still in the same neighborhood on the backyard on Boca Ciega Bay with Tricia Thompson, and we just talked about the fourth highest surge at the gauge at St. Pete, almost 4 feet, and you witnessed all that coming in late yesterday, along at the same time the tide coming in.
Yes, I did. Along the back here, as it got close to high tide, I was videoing and I could watch the water coming over the seawall and splashing up behind the lighting. And then as it got close to high tide, it actually just kept coming in and coming in. And as you can see, it went into the pool and was just splashing really heavy. And the wind was blowing so heavy, the back sliders there, the rain was forcing water into the house. So we had a succession of 5 sets of towels, you know, in and out of the dryer trying to absorb the water. And then, of course, out front, we have never had the garages flood before, and we've never had the water in up to close to the door, which, you know, there are some steps, so it didn't get up that far, but we've never had the pavers flooded, and that's a pretty long driveway. We've had this issue with the streets flooding, but never to this degree. And first thing this morning, I got out here, filled 3 cans of garbage, and you can see the shells have come up. We had debris from the ocean, and then someone lost their dock, and there was a piece of wood lodged in between here that's out front now.
And you've got quite the job to clean out the pool.
I actually took the rake and used the rake to skim what we could. Thank goodness the pool guy's coming tomorrow, but this is a big mess. So, but yes, we've never had it happen like this. So it's, but again, I'm very grateful we have power, because I understand there were 30,000 people without power, and I know people who have power, who do not have power. Right. There's people here on the island who have their houses flooded. That's not the case with us, except for the water by the sliders. So again, I'm blessed. I always try to be optimistic. It could have been worse. Now again, I understand we have a storm surge today. So this morning, I don't know the time frame, but they say there's going to be a surge with high tide.
Well, I think we're going to be okay today because the wind has backed way off.
Oh, well,
that's the big push is from the wind.
Yes.
Up Tampa Bay and here into Boca.
Yes. Boca Ciega Bay.
Ciega Bay.
And we experienced that this past weekend. We had winds blowing, I think it was 30 mile an hour. Right. So though it can change overnight, the wind, and all the patio furniture that was out here is now behind our new little section here. And last weekend, we literally moved all of that behind our curtain here that we made. Okay, Tricia Thompson, we appreciate your replaying the day yesterday, which you hope you won't have to go through again anytime soon. It is November, so yeah, it was you got to scary think last night. It was scary seeing the water, not knowing
how far it was going to come.
Well, exactly. And again, we knew that high tide was at 9:39, but still watching it, not knowing how much it could go up, but just as soon as high tide hit, then you did see the water starting to succeed. So,
Thankfully.
yes, thankfully.
Well, thanks for joining us this morning here in St. Pete Beach. Dr. Postel, another story of you're sitting in your house and you know the surge is coming in and you're just wondering how high it's going to get. You know, we give you those predictions above normally high ground of 4 to 6 feet, but you just don't know, how it's going to turn out based on the tide and where you're sitting.
Yeah, it's still, there's a lot of unpredictability there. Even when we think we know how high the water's going to get, you never really know for sure, which is why you need to follow the advice of the local officials. When they really think that you should get out of the way for the worst case scenario, probably not a bad idea to do so. Thank you very much, Mike.
Good morning. Welcome back to the Weather Channel coverage of Eta. We'll have more on the flash flooding and the issues in the Carolinas in just a moment. First, though, we're looking back to the impacts here at St. Pete Beach. And we've got Jody McLean here, who lives in this beautiful beach house. That's the name of it.
Lived in this beautiful beach house.
Well, you're still here and you're still okay. We noticed the water line, and we noticed the water line goes above the bottom of the front door. That's never a good sign.
No, yeah, and that's the first time it's done. We've been here since 2011. This is the highest the water's ever been on this island.
And what was your, what were you doing last night when the water came up? Did it come up very fast? Because that's what we've been told.
I mean, usually we have more time to prepare, and we have a pretty good evacuation plan because this is a flood-prone area, but it was so fast, so we didn't have time to react. So we panicked and actually ran next door with our dog. The water came up that fast. I remember looking out during a movie, and it was maybe up to the driveway, and I came out a half hour later and looked, and it was all the way up to the door. So within 30 minutes, it went that far, and then it just started coming in the house, and it came in so fast that we panicked and ran.
Well, you've been nice enough to let us go in and show our viewers at home, see this mess, and be thankful you're okay.
Right.
There
wasn't a place in the house that
go ahead in, and I'll try to keep the microphone ahead of you. Wow, look at this.
Yeah. Well, you can see the water line even on the chair of how high it came up.
Look at that. There's a water line on the chair.
Yeah. So that's a pretty good indication. And we're just waiting for the insurance adjuster to come out before we clean.
So you've got, these are laminate or hardwood?
It's a hybrid hardwood floor. I'm not sure exactly what to call it.
Want to walk back there?
Sure.
Go ahead. Lead the way.
First. All right.
Give us a little tour here. There's your sister. Hello, sister.
Hi, how are you?
How are you? What's your name?
Tanya.
Hey, Tanya. Nice to see you. And so you got everything up here on the couch.
Yeah, we tried to do a little damage control, but here's the back bedroom, and this was completely underwater. Actually, there's not a house or a room in the house that wasn't underwater.
Well,
6 inches.
It doesn't look like it got up to the. Is it drywall or plaster?
Well, I think right
here. Oh, I
here.
see. I do see a little bit there. So there's going to have to be some remediation, I suspect, because of the issue with mold.
Yeah. Ooh, that's close.
So what's the status on your insurance?
I called first thing this morning as soon as we could get over here and kind of assess the damage. And they're supposed to send out an adjuster within 24 hours, and I'm sure they're being bombarded right now. So.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, we're glad you're okay, and thanks so much for showing us what you're going through and went through. And it's just, like you said, it came up so fast, you ran next door with your dog.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we just kind of panicked and grabbed a couple of things and our dog and sloshed across the lawn to the neighbor's house. So, taking it one step at a time, but that's the hazards of living at the beach, I guess.
Yeah, you pay for the paradise sometimes.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, Jody.
We're paying pretty hard.
Thanks so much.
Guys.
Okay, Dr. Postel, once again, it came up fast, as she said. They ran next door at the power of water. And high tide, too. It came in at high tide, which was one of the disconcerting things. Had it come in at low tide, the tidal range here is about 2 feet, I believe, yesterday. So it would have been about 2 feet lower, and this house would have not had water in it.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen and I've heard the analogy from very respectable scientists on storm surge, likening it to a tsunami. Now, not all the time, but sometimes under the right circumstances, you can get that kind of dramatic and rapid water rise exactly as these folks were describing. That's kind of terrifying, and I'm glad they're okay. But, Mike, thanks for that reporting. That's great stuff. Gives you
So let's talk more about Eta's surge and the coastal impacts on Florida's west coast. We have our own meteorologist, Mike Seidel. He is there. He's been talking to residents this morning. So, Mike, what are some of the residents saying?
Well, we just talked to Lenny Coe, who lives here, and you can see what he's dealt with. Fortunately, he didn't have water come in the front door, but he dealt with wind. You know, we had wind gusts up to 60 miles an hour, and it swirls around. And look at his patio and kind of a gazebo out here. This took on the wind and also water. It's still holding some water. There's the ceiling fan down at the ground. A lot of the pools out here have, taken on a lot of debris. The ones near the bay, seawater came in and whatever else was in there. You can see he's going to have to clean out the pool before he goes back in it, I would suspect. Right, Lenny? And back here, we still have a lot of standing water. So it goes to show you that he dealt with the freshwater flooding and the wind, not so much the saltwater surge, but that was out in his front yard, but his house is fine. So, again, we always say it could have been a lot worse. He'll get this cleaned up. His house is fine, and nobody in this neighborhood was hurt. It's just the fact that, you know, it's a mess. And when water gets in your house, you got to do the remediation and get in there and get that out because the mold and mildew can be a very, very serious health problem. Dr. Postel, what I can tell you right now, it's hot, or it seems hot and steamy. In fact, I mentioned I was tired of the heat and humidity to Lenny, and he said, yeah, we are too. They're waiting for, they had one cold front. They had one cold front get down here, but temperatures in the upper 60s. But they're ready too, I think, for some cooler weather in the next, at least before Thanksgiving, my gosh.
Well, maybe you get a cold front here and there, Mike, but I'm sure you're well aware of the odds of it being below average temperature-wise for the winter in the southeast U.S. Good luck with that. Right. It looks like it's going to be pretty warm. You know that as well as anybody. Let's have a,
Exactly.
Joining us live from St. Pete Beach to talk about Eta's impacts is meteorologist Mike Seidel. So, Mike, I've heard you talking to different residents, some dealing with flooding, some dealing with terrible winds as well. They kind of got the entire tropical storm experience there in St. Pete for sure.
Yeah, and the rain, you know, Tampa had their wettest November day on record with about 4 inches, and Sarasota, Bradenton had over 6 inches. So a lot of rainfall. But the issue in this neighborhood in St. Pete was the surge. And it came in right at high tide, and Keith Webb knows more about that.
Yep. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. We got quite a bit of surge last night. Plus, we had high tide around the same time, which made it really difficult. We had pretty much a river from the bay all the way down the side of my house here to the street, and the street was like a motorless river going to the bay that way.
And so it was precarious. You weren't sure how high the water was going to get, and you've got these beautiful cars and your motorcycles out here. How did you fare?
Yeah, I was worried about it. I kept watching it pretty constantly, coming outside, checking it. Not like I could fix anything, but just tried to do what I could to make everything secure and whatnot. So I was worried for sure.
How about this Camaro?
I got a little water in the floorboard, minimal, but still just, you know, it must have come up over the doorway here. So it's about this high last night at some point to get into the door.
Kevin. And back here you have another car and your prized motorcycles.
Yeah, I just got a new motorcycle last week, and I haven't put it in a shelter yet or a garage, so I was really worried about that last night. But I think we fared pretty well overall, and it could have been a lot worse.
Did the water go all the way through? Did you have water all the way through your property,
yes,
at least several inches?
Yes, my property was completely covered about 4 or 5 inches easily from the back seawall all the way across here to the street. This whole street was flooded.
So now it's dry out the back seats and you're back in biz.
Yeah, dry out the back seats, a little wet vac, a little bit of towels, and a little sunshine. Hopefully today, we should be all right.
Is your power back on here? Some of the houses don't have power.
Yes, we lost power for a few minutes, probably less than an hour, to be honest. Yep.
Okay, well, thanks for joining us, and I'm glad you're okay, and the house is okay, and your fancy motorcycles are okay.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay. Once again, the surge here in this neighborhood at St. Pete Beach. Sun is out right now. It's warm and sticky, and the cleanup continues. You can see the palm fronds down. That's because of the wind. And again, water has receded. Good afternoon once again back here in St. Pete Beach. This is Boca Ciega Bay, and yesterday it was a whole different story. Yesterday afternoon and last night, the water came up over the seawall. Let's talk to Alexa Asatura, who is one of the residents here, along with her dog, and tell us a little bit about what you saw and what happened.
So the water started about 3:30, and it just came over, and it started pounding, and slowly, and by the time like I was supposed to leave and go up north, and I was stuck, and it was about 6 hours of straight pounding over and over.
And so the water was slamming up against these windows and doors.
Yeah, you can see how high the debris goes all around. It was a mess.
And were you concerned about the water getting in? Because
there was water coming in. We were running back and forth with towels, mops, and then we finally got a wet vac out because it was going so high. It was an experience, to say the least.
And you've got the sandbags there, too. That helped.
Yeah, we sandbagged.
Is that your...
This is the owner of the house.
Oh, the owner. Hello, what's your name?
Karen.
Karen, nice to meet you.
Karen Janik.
You're okay, Karen?
Oh, yeah. It was an experience, but thank goodness Alexa was here.
How long have you lived here?
20 years.
Is this the worst you've seen it in 20 years?
Oh, yeah. My grandfather built this house, in 1951. My aunt and uncle built that house. They just got water in it for the first time.
Since 1951.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you're okay, and the house looks like it's good. And you've got another dog inside. What's the dog's name inside?
We have two.
Sabrina. There's two inside. That is Sabrina that you see, and you can hear barking. And there's another girl who's in a crate whose name is Bonnie. And this is Shayna.
That's a good-looking collie. Hello,
Yeah.
Shayna. You want to walk around front real
Yeah.
quick, and we'll show you. Want to show everybody at home how close the bay came to getting in their front door.
Oh yeah.
We're talking.
So it came up even up this alleyway.
This is all underwater, right?
This was all underwater. So we opened that door, and this was all covered in water up to that like front step there.
Okay, we'll go around front because
Yeah.
I noticed the water line and how precarious it was to the front door, and also your car was out front too.
Yeah, my car was out front, and it's got water damage in the bottom at least. It didn't go all the way up, thank God, but I'm waiting to see what the insurance says.
Water in the garage.
Water in the garage up to about a foot.
And there's the front door. Austin
yeah.
Anderson will swing around there with the camera.
And you can see
look
by the hose line, you can see how high it was coming, and it was splashing up at the front door, but nothing got in.
Look at this. I mean, that, another few inches, just a matter of inches, it would have been in the front door. And your car's going to be okay as it start?
I haven't started it because if you start it, according to the insurance company, that basically totals it. So they said don't touch it, just let it sit. And I've taken a wet bag to it, started to try and dry out the bottoms of the seats, and that's about it so far. And then and now I'm waiting.
Okay, well, thanks for showing us around. I'm glad you were here.
Yeah.
For the owner, Helen. And look at these, Dr. Postel. Everybody loves dogs on TV. Look at these two collies. Bring them in. Let's get them in together here.
Okay.
Real quick.
All right.
Come on in.
Here, I'll take
I think he's a little.
Sabrina.
Come here.
Come here,
Well, I
Mama.
think
She's
Sabrina's okay.
She's a nervous one.
She's worried about my hat.
Come here. Hi.
Okay, Dr. Postel,
Here
the
we
dog
go.
is scared of the Weather Channel hat. It's the word on the street here.
I think they're scared of you, Mike.
She's just checking you out first.
My girl's
Well, wait a minute.
Checking you out.
Oh, she's calmed down.
She's a champion.
She's a champion.
the show champion.
Okay, Dr. Postel, give us the latest now on Eta up the coast because they're having some serious issues.
Yes, we have a lot of rain, of course, and even
Very, very nicely. Dr. Postel?
yeah, let's have a look now.